Yo, wake up.
Scandalous. That's my heart and all that makes you blush.
Skies, I look in your eyes, you take me by surprise. Don't you make me feel like I've been hung up just to dry. Cause me and you were meant to be together, baby. Scandalous, baby, when you're coming home, cause it's been too long, I'm out of control again.
And together, we'll save Alpha.
Scandalous, baby, when you're coming home, cause it's been too long, I'm out of control again.
All right, what is going on, my beautiful people? I am here with the #1 Gooner Looter Shooter, baby, and I am on a mission, fellers. The mission for the next 2 weeks is to give you guys the best builds for my favorite descendants. Fully optimized min-max speedrunning tactics, and has been updated for Season 3. And I want to start off by giving you my Nell build. I currently hold the 66th Stormhanger Abyss world record, if I do say so myself. It did take me a little while to get used to, you know, how she really works and understands what makes her tick, but I think I've cracked it. So right now on screen, I want to show you my build breakdown. You can either take a screenshot or download the picture down below. I got this idea of having a spreadsheet from Drybear. He's a fantastic content creator. He covers First Descendant as well, guys. Please check him out if you haven't already. But enough yapping. Let's get into the build. Now, first off are her abilities. She does non-attribute tech and fusion damage. Her passive ability, Suspicion and Insight. When using your Aceive scan, that's the right thumbstick on controller or tab on PC, you use this to mark enemies, making them receive double damage at base. And anything killed will spread the scan to other enemies like an infection. Her one ability, Breach Spike, fires a barrage of black balls. As you can see in the demo, it only hits one guy in a group, whereas when you scan the enemies, it becomes a massive AoE. And landing a crit on a marked enemy has a chance to grant Suspicion. Now, what is Suspicion? That's your special resource below the MP meter. So you hit them with the scan, use your 1 to build up the meter. Once the meter is full, you can activate your 4, which will launch a barrage of Breach Spikes. Okay, and her 2 and 3 go hand in hand. Her 2 places an anti-gravity field debuffing targets, and there's 2 things we could do with this. Either activate her 2 again, repulsing enemies away, or activate her 3, sucking the enemies in. But you can only activate it once, so if you place your 2 down and you use your 3, you have to place the 2 down again to reuse it. However, after using the 3, the anti-gravity field would still linger, and you can get about 3 of these out at the same time, creating a giant field of dot damage. For her bossing build, we're going to be leaning into crit and cooldown, cooldown, cooldown as much as possible. We got our 4 horsemen of crit mods, front lines, emergency measures, skill insight, and skill concentration. Our cooldown mods are Nimble Fingers, MP Conversion, Focus on Non-Attribute, and Focus on Tech, because we're going to be spamming R1 and R4, which are tech-based. That's why we do that. And Hyper Focus is objectively better than Dangerous Ambush. When landing a firearm crit will grant a 46% additive damage for 15 seconds. But be careful, because the other part of the mod states landing a skill crit will grant weapon damage, and you can only have one of these buffs active, so make sure you shoot before you start dealing skill damage. The reason I picked this is because my logic behind farming these bosses is to kill it as fast as possible. And Dangerous Ambush has too many variables, like if you do too much damage, he'll become enraged instead of stunned. On top of losing literal damage if he's not stunned. Which, unless you're speedrunning, that's most of the fight. He's up and attacking. He might get stunned twice in a fight, honestly. And to be honest, I just don't feel like that's enough damage. It's just super inconsistent. And our Transcendent mod is obviously Shattered Heart. That's what turns our 4 into projectiles. The trigger mod best in slot for this is Power Beyond. When activating, her 2 will grant up to 15% skill power increase. But apparently this is working as a passive buff, so not doing anything will just give you the 15%. But I don't really know about all of that. Before the fight, I still throw down my 2, and I still get a lot more damage, so I'm not sure what's happening with that. But I would still throw down the 2 no matter what. Okay, and the Reactor is non-attribute in tech with a tactical and hand cannon mounting, as well as a Colossus and cooldown modifier on the bottom. The external components we're going to use is the Mage set for that 6% flat damage increase. And when using a non-attribute skill at 3 stacks, deals 84% more skill power, which is way better than Slayer. The auxiliary power, I go with max HP, MP recovery out of combat. Sensor, max MP and MP recovery in combat. The memory, electric resistance is a must. As you can see, Nell's electric defense is at 11. So when you apply these core mods that say 73% to electric resistance, that's 73% of 11, which is 8. So you want to make sure you get an actual numerical value of resistance. And the processor, max shield with shield recovery. The core modifiers, I will prioritize getting max HP and at least 2 electric resistances. The rest can be defense. The weapon we're going to use is Secret Garden because the unique ability Pest grants us a stacking tech damage increase. For the bossing build, we want to build into as much crit rate as possible to quickly activate Hyper Focus. The Arche Tuning board is pretty straightforward, grabbing the Colossus damage in the corner and coming up to get the Mutant Cell, Fusion, and Tech Tuning. I picked this because it's consistent damage, whereas Final Preparations can only be activated by your 4 and has a 30-second cooldown after 15 seconds. Which every fight is going over 15 seconds, but with this build is under a minute. So literally more than half of the fight, you're not going to get any damage bonus whatsoever. Whereas the Fusion Tech Tuning is 100% uptime on the 4.7% additive skill power damage bonus. We're going to be spamming our tech skill over and over and over again. We're going to have that damage increase the entirety of the fight. And it's actually a damage increase to our 2 as well because of the duration keeping up. We can place our 2 that creates a lingering dot damage that lasts longer. That's more damage. The Inversion Reinforcement, I picked the Arche Circulation Tactic for more cooldown, Neurostimulation for MP recovery. You could swap this for Toxic rounds, but I haven't seen that much difference in time, and more MP is more forgiving. And then deploy Resonance Device to get more weak point damage, and making sure you get the Quantum Domain perk as well before maxing out the rest of the tree. Alright, that's it for the bossing build, and I'll go over the gameplay loop on how to beat the boss with this build at the end of the video, and how I got my 24-second time as well. Now, her mobbing build isn't that much different except for a couple mods. We're looking at range and even more cooldown. So we still have our 4 crit mods. We got Nimble Fingers, MP Conversion, Focus on Attribute. Everything's the same except Focus on Fusion, because we're going to be using our 2 and 3 more often. I also swapped the Spear and Shield for Amplification Control for more range. I picked this over max range because personally I feel like the -20 power modifier hurts the build in the Axian planes, but do what feels right to you, honestly. And I also swapped Hyper Focus for Skill Expansion. The Reactor can either be Fusion or Tech, depends what style of gameplay loop you want. If you want to make good use of her sucking ability, then the Fusion Reactor. If you like her 1 and 4, then go Tech. But both always end up with a cooldown and crit damage modifier with a tac rifle and hand cannon mounting. I say hand cannon because the Peacemaker also grants more damage to non-attribute skills, so if you're leaning into her 2 and 3 gameplay, put this on. The components are the exact same, nothing to really change here. The Inversion Reinforcement is the same, however the Arche Tuning board is slightly different. We're just going to pick up this range over the Colossus damage. And that's it for her mobbing setup, nothing too crazy. Just using these abilities in synergy, comboing off of each other. That's really the biggest thing. Going from 1 to spamming her 2, sucking people in. If there's a big target, hit your 4. If it's, you know, regular beefy enemy, you know, spam your 1. You know what I'm saying? It's very straightforward, nothing too crazy. And now the Purge build is more similar to the bossing setup. The mods I just swapped Hyper Focus for Preemptive Strike because it's very consistent. If you're spamming her 1 and 4, you could also go for Decimator, but again, I just like consistency. The Reactor, I would go Tech with a cooldown crit damage, and components, Inversion Reinforcement, Arche Tuning are all the same as the mobbing build. Not much differences in build for Nell outside of getting more range for her mobbing. Okay, so this is my 24-second run. I first wait for the shields to go down, then I hit my 1 twice to build up stacks from Pest and the Mage set. I wait because they're on a duration, and when it runs out, you just lose damage and you have to reapply them. I use my 2 under the boss to proc Power Beyond. I shoot with my Secret Garden to proc Hyper Focus. I then use my Scan and just go to town. Now, it is RNG how many stacks of your special resource you can get, as it has a trigger rate. But a perfect hit can give you half the meter. So you can get your super in 2 hits from your 1. The only thing I'm really paying attention to at this point is my Hyper Focus buff. I wait for it to run out and immediately shoot it again to reapply that buff. And my 2 for Power Beyond, and we're home free. If you ever feel like you're missing, or you activated your 4 and he's moving around too much, try aiming at the base of his body at the top. That doesn't really move anywhere. Alright guys, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for everyone coming by and watching. If I missed anything, or if you have any tips and tricks, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Come by the stream on Twitch while we're doing these build crafting videos. We have a lot of fun out there. Check out my other First Descendant videos. And as always, GG fellers.
I know